to other colleagues to join us. So as soon in next 2 or 3 minutes, we can start our workshop. So thank you very much to join us. So in next 2 or 3 minutes, I will come back and start the workshop. But as I mentioned, and then also for logistical point of view, feel free to select the language that you are comfortable in. If it's French, select French channel. If it's English, select English channel. If it's Portuguese, please select Portuguese channel. So thank you very much, colleagues. So in next 2 minutes, we'll start our workshop. Thank you. Okay, I think we can start the workshop now. So thank you very much and welcome to this NADABAS workshop. So we are going to have a meeting today, 16th of September, and then also tomorrow, 16th of September. So the objective of the workshop, as you can see in the agenda, and then also the invitation letter that we share with you, is to give you some introduction on how to use that tools, NADABAS, for the compilation of a national account. So according to the draft program that we have here, we are supposed to have now opening remark from Madame Leila Ben Ali, Head of Statistics Division of African Union Commission. So she's now busy with another meeting. So what I'm proposing that we start with, in order to keep the time on, let's now proceed with straight introduction of NADABAS. And then we later, if Madame Leila join us before the end of the workshop, or end of it today, we can give him a floor so that he can make the opening remark. So having said that, now allow me to give a floor now to my colleague Jan Redebi, the national account expert consultant who was previously working for Statistics Sweden, to give us a brief introduction presentation on NADABAS. The background is a system based only on Excel, may usually lead to error, difficult calculation and data. NADABAS is the Excel tool based and free, easy to learn and easy to track data, reducing risk of error and crash, ensuring better documentation. So having said that, now allow me now to give a floor to Jan Redebi. So Jan, please, you have a floor. But you are muted now. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Now you can hear me. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Please go ahead now with your presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Jan Redebi, and I'm one of the developers on NADABAS, and I've worked with it for quite many years. So I will go straight on my presentation, and for that purpose, I will share my screen, and it's PowerPoint presentation. I will share my screen. Let me see now. And slideshow. Can you see now?
Yeah, I can see your screen now. We can see your screen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is written there as well. So NADABAS is also very much about Excel. So let me start by, let me just get rid of, yeah. Okay. And the fact is that, I mean, I think all of you are using Microsoft Excel for your national accounts. Some of you might use another application, database application, or at least in many European countries, Excel is backed up by some database application. So Excel is used in a more or less organized manner, but it's often a bit messy with numerous Excel links, then can very often be hard to follow. So if you use Excel, there should be constitute a system. So just as a background, there have been attempts to develop Excel-based system. Statistics Sweden developed one such called SNAPS in the 1990s, and that was used in a couple of countries. Namibia, Lesotho, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and also in the Caribbean by Belize and Jamaica. Then there was another system that was developed by the UN Statistical Department that was used in Mozambique. So in some stage, why not? And we have been thinking. I had been thinking of that for quite some time. Why not combine Excel with a database? So just a few words about Excel habits, good practices and links. I just state in the first sentence here that some statistical offices, like Statistics Sweden, they have actually rules how to use Excel. One thing is that links between Excel workbooks are not allowed. And then Statistics Sweden also have a set format for Excel workbooks. Let me just show example of how a link can look. How do you follow this link? How do you trace the origin of the data? So one important, once again, thing with NADABAS is that it enforces well-structured Excel workbooks. Because designing the links to a database, it enforces you to structure your Excel workbook in an organized manner. And it also gives a minimum of documentation. You can trace where the database links come from. You can trace where data origin and so on. So the development of NADABAS started in Mozambique. It's 17 years ago. By that time, it was a Scandinavian project in Mozambique. So since then, there has been a continuous development of the system. Now it's used in Mozambique, Lesotho, Kenya, Eswatini, Namibia, and Botswana. It has been introduced in Malawi, Zambia, and South Africa. And outside Africa is used in the Pacific in two island nations called Palau and Marshall Islands. And since 2 years back, we also have a government structure developed. So for the time being, the system is supported by Statistics Sweden and Statistics Norway. So we are working on making arrangement to make South Africa to be the custodian of NADABAS. Okay, practicalities. It's designed as an add-in to Excel, and then Visual Basic for application is the programming language. And I want to say now it works with Excel 2013 and all following versions. If you still are using Excel 2010, for example, 2007, it might not work that well. So the database is mostly an access database. It can also be something called SQL Express. So the advantage with that, there is no additional license costs for NADABAS. There is no cost to acquire the program. There is no copyright. And There is a greater flexibility to design the Excel workbooks and the database. And the design, that is the big task in the installation, because the program as such doesn't come with a ready-made design. Although as the use of the system increases, there are several examples how to do it. So the installation might also go together with rebasing and revisions. In a few cases, one case to my knowledge, it has been possible to adapt existing Excel workbooks. So in short, to set it up and use NADABAS, it requires a good knowledge of national accounts and Excel. IT knowledge is not necessary as such. The IT knowledge is needed mainly if you want to set up the system in a network environment. And once installed, the system has generally worked quite well. User countries, here is a short list. In Mozambique, it's used for annual GDP by the production and expenditure approaches. Currently, quarterly GDP by the production and expenditures approaches are being developed. Lesotho, Eswatini, Namibia, fairly similar way of using it. It's the annual GDP by the production and expenditure approaches. We have the quarterly GDP by the production approach as well. Kenya, that's the annual GDP by production and expenditure, quarterly GDP also by production and expenditure. Supply and use table have been included for the base year twice now. And in Kenya, they have also developed regional estimates of GDP for the 47 counties in the country. And in that endeavor, NADABAS was a big help. So Botswana have recently finalized the rebase and revisions, which have been recently published. And then a supply and use table was included for the new base year. It's written wrong here, it should be 2016. So one strength with the system is that it's easy to include source data in your Excel files. I think many of you are familiar with these source data. You normally have quite detailed foreign trade data specified by the harmonized system. And it can be arranged so that these detailed source data are classified by products, classified by these end-use categories, broad economic categories, which can then be downloaded for calculations in various Excel files. All of you have monthly consumer price indexes, which can also easily be organized for database, producer price indexes. And now there is an increasing use of VAT data with taxpayers classified by ISIC. And the strength of this, I mean, whether the source data are monthly or quarterly, you store them as such. But when you need them as annual data or monthly to quarterly data, the system sort of calculates the necessary averages or sums. So a broader perspective also. I mentioned that there were 2 user countries in the Pacific, and they have annual GDP by production and expenditure approaches. Then they have also included an annual supply and use table with inputs to a social accounting matrix and the tourism satellite account. And then the system in these 2 countries also includes other economic statistics, as government, financial statistics, balance of payments, and monetary statistics. So in those 2 countries, a full set of economic statistics are prepared for publications and they are compiled in NADABAS. So in summary then, NADABAS can be seen as a generic software that combines Excel with a database, and its use is not necessarily restricted to the compilation of national accounts. So finally, there is a website. I think many of you have visited that website. And there is a tutorial that can be downloaded from the website, and with a small data set, which is realistic enough, but it's small, of course, small and compressor. So the tutorial illustrates how to install NADABAS, how to create and how to create classifications and database tables. And it illustrates how to use source data and how to compile estimates of GDP. And it illustrates how to design the links between workbooks and the database. So I think with that, I have to end, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jan. So I think now we can open the floor for question and answer. So
Yeah, I will stop the stop share. Okay.
Yeah. So colleague, feel free now to, if you want to come up with any question or comment, just raise your hand and then I will give you a floor. Any comment? Yes. Michael,
Yes.
Michael, go ahead.
Yes. Sure. My question is, I just wanted to know whether we're going to get the material that's being, presented, the slides after the session.
Yeah, we'll share all the material with participants.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Any question, comment, please? Feel free to come in. Yes, Samuel. Samuel.
Oui,
allez-y.
Oui, bonjour. Oui, j'ai quelques questions. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, on vous entend très bien.
Ah, d'accord. Est-ce que c'est le comptable national lui-même qui fait les calculs ou bien c'est l'outil, par exemple, pour calculer la valeur ajoutée? Est-ce que les comptables nationaux formulent la formule que nous connaissons tous, la production, la consommation intermédiaire, ou c'est programmé? Vous avez parlé, parce que vous avez parlé beaucoup de choses, hein, vous avez parlé de matrice de comptabilité sociale, des dépenses des touristes. Est-ce que c'est juste des boutons qu'on clique et ça sort, ou on fait les calculs? Est-ce qu'il y a donc plusieurs versions de NADABAS ou une seule? Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Samuel. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions, commentaires avant que je donne la parole à Yann? Je ne vois plus. Oui? Abdallah, allez-y. Abdallah. Abdallah, pour ouvrir votre micro est fermé si vous êtes en train de parler. Abdallah, we cannot hear you. So maybe I cannot hear Abdallah. Okay, any comment or question? I can see one question with chat. And then, Jan, let me read you that question. They say, what is the main function of NADABAS? Jan, did you hear me? There's one question in chat, but in French. But it say, what is the main function of NADABAS? Okay, so I think I cannot see any further question. So, Jan, I will give the floor now to address that question from Samuel, and then also the one in the chat. Go ahead.
I mean, the next presentation will illustrate some of the functions of NADABAS, how to operate the system and so on. So your question is whether, I mean, let me say like this, NADABAS as such doesn't know anything about national accounts. You can see it as you are creating an Excel system with national accounts. You have to use your national accounts knowledge to set up such a system. But with NADABAS, it enforces you to structure it in a certain way. And there are many, what should I say, there are many possibilities, many automated functions in NADABAS. So it doesn't know anything of national accounts as such from the beginning. But if somebody is interested, there are quite a number of examples which can be used if you want to set it up in a country. So that as much as I can. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I cannot see any hand anymore. I think, yeah, okay. And then as you mentioned clearly, maybe most of those questions will be answered during the next presentation. So if you allow me, let's now proceed to the second presentation, which is a demonstration on how NADABAS work and how it can be used. So I will give the floor to my colleague from Magnus. Magnus, if you are connected, please, over to you.
Yes, hello. Do you hear me and see me?
Yeah, I can hear you and can see you now.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Magnus Helgesen. I'm from Norway. I work at the national accounts here. Have been here for 9 years, and I've been working with NADABAS, the NADABAS system, for a little more than 1.5 years now. And the plan is that I will make a presentation that somewhat overlaps with what Jan said and also extends it. And then I will do a few, or I will do one or maybe two examples of use, little bit depending on how much time I use. So let me first try to share my screen and make the presentation. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk shortly about what NADABAS is. So hopefully that answers the question that came to the last presentation, and a little bit about the pros and cons of NADABAS. So NADABAS is a database system, and I write national accounts in parentheses because it can really be used for anything. It's not made for national accounts as such, but that's what it was intended to be used for from the beginning. It's based on Excel, written in Visual Basics for applications. Calculations are done in Excel, and the data is stored and retrieved from databases, either Access databases or SQL Express. And for the user, it pops up as an add-in to the ribbon in Excel. And one very big advantage of the system is that classifications may be and should be integrated in the system. That may be industry codes, product sectors, and more. And as Jan said, most countries already use Excel in their statistics production, and as such, NADABAS doesn't cost anything more to use, and it's fairly easy to install. It's easy to install and fairly easy to learn and to use. And as Jan touched upon, one very big or very important function of NADABAS is to replace very messy links in Excel between different workbooks with connections between Excel workbook or Excel workbooks and a database. These Excel links are very hard to trace and can easily break. They might break if someone move the workbooks. The folders might be renamed. That might also break the links. And if they break, they are nearly impossible to repair. Instead, NADABAS makes a connection between each workbook to a database. And this connection is very robust, and it's also very well documented. So that makes it much easier to trace where the data come from. And it makes it much easier to do rebasing or main revisions. And so now I have a few schematics of how an Excel system might look with links. So this is an illustration of how it might look without NADABAS. The arrows are meant to imply somehow some sort of connections between different workbooks. And one or any of these links might break and be very difficult to repair, and that would do it very difficult to compile national accounts. So instead of this, NADABAS would look something like this, where each workbook is connected to a database, and each of these arrows are very, very robust. And in addition to this, these links between different workbooks, you also have the option, and you should integrate these classifications into the system. These classifications have at least two. They ensure that the users can only upload data with valid codes to the database, and they provide documentation of the system. You also have a function which I really like myself, which is called Correspondences, that also can be integrated into the system. This is basically aggregation rules that says something about how different sets of codes might be aggregated to other ones. And that could be very, I think that could be very useful because it's very easy to find any mistakes if they should be there, and easy to fix. And the system also contains a library of all the workbooks in the system. So that means that when you open the database, you will be able to look at, or you can get up a menu showing you all the workbooks that are in the system, and open them, and they are organized into different groups, and it's very transparent and orderly. And you can also give different members of the national accounts team different permissions, such that only a few users can read or store data to particular parts of the database. And you can also give different users different permissions, such that only some users can manipulate the system. Yes. So then the schematic looks a little bit more like this. So this is the original picture of the workbooks and the database. And in addition, you have classifications, correspondences, and everything also in the database. And yeah, so I have a few screenshots of menus from NADABAS, and we will see this also when I go into the examples. Yeah, so regarding this about administrators and regular users will be met with a little bit smaller tab in the Excel ribbon that looks like this. They are allowed to read data from the database and write data to the database, whereas an administrator is met with a slightly extended ribbon, and these users will be able to register new workbooks to the system create links between the workbook and the database, and in general, build or extend the system might be, is covering. So the bottom line here is that NADABAS is free and easy to learn, and it reduces risk of errors, of crashes, makes rebasing and revisions easier, and ensures better documentation. And as Jan said, once installed, NADABAS has worked well without major problems in the user countries. Perhaps also on the con side, this is slightly related to the question earlier, where the question was in the direction of whether you press buttons and it does all the calculations, or how it is, and that might be said as might be regarded as a con, and that is that the system is very free. You can use it basically almost however you want, and there's no limitations built into the system. It doesn't know what national accounts is on the outset. You have to build it yourself. So that might be viewed as a con. So there's a time requirement, or there's a requirement that people spend time to install and design the system. Maybe there's a possibility of reusing some Excel workbooks, but probably there would be a need to spend time on building the system and establishing the links between the workbooks and the database. And this is all often done as a part of or in combination with rebasing or main revision. And it requires national accounts knowledge and a little bit of Excel knowledge. And administrators perhaps need a bit of IT savvy to get by. So this is the presentation part. I will skip straight to the demonstration. I think I'll have to unshare my screen and then share again, or at least switch. Let's see. Can you see the new screen now?
Yes.
Excellent.
You can see a folder called workshop.
Oh, you see the PowerPoint or the folder?
Only the folder for
See.
Okay. One moment.
On le voit.
See.
Okay, I will do you see the PowerPoint now?
what?
Do you see?
We
Yeah, well,
can-
it's correct. It's correct.
We see the Explorer, Internet Explorer.
Do you see now?
We can see the file manager. That's what we see.
You see right, and you see the workshop data industries classifications.
Yeah, we see the layout of that specific.
Excellent. That is the plan.
Mhm.
Okay, so in this, I'll just check my time. Okay, I have time. So in this example, I will show the basics of NADABAS and how to establish a system. For people who has never seen NADABAS before, I won't go into sufficient details that everyone will understand everything, but from experience, I think most statisticians that do a little bit of practice with this will get a feel of it and a hang of it, and everyone will be able, or pretty much everyone will be able to do these things in NADABAS. So just be aware that it might. I won't explain everything in detail, but it's more to get the flavor. So we will start with a workbook called Correspondences, and this is going to constitute the first sheet or the first workbook in a system. It contains some raw data. These are price indices, and these are in the sheet called data. And we have another sheet called upload, which contains the data that we wish to upload to a database. And these are basically the same prices or the same indices from the other sheet, only referenced to a different year. So the first thing we have to do, since this is the first sheet in a system, we have to create a new database, and we make an access database. And then we simply open the database. As you see, when I opened the database, all the buttons became active, meaning they went from gray to black and became active. So now I can start doing NADABAS operations. And as you also see, related to the presentation I just held, since I just created this database, I am by definition an administrator of this database. So I have all the permissions necessary to create or design a system. And I'll just go through the steps one by one and show how this is done. The first thing we do is to assign a name to the data area that we wish to upload to the database. The data area will be made a little bit larger than what's necessary at the moment, because we want to be ready for new observations to come in the future. And we assign a name. It can be basically whatever, but we choose data because it's descriptive. And we will use it in a little while. Next, we make what is called a key family. This is a little bit, for me, this was maybe the most difficult concept to grasp exactly in the beginning, but in very short, it's a key family basically corresponds to a data table in the database. So now we make a key family, which we will call prices, and the moment it is made, there will be an empty table in the database called prices, ready to accept data. So prices, we need to have or assign some dimensions to the table, and dimensions are basically pieces of information that, seen together, identify a single piece of data. And in this case, which you may see from the sheet behind us, what we need is year, quarter, month, and price item. If we have all these things, we will be able to know exactly what price index value we are looking for. Okay, so now we have finished, and we have made a new key family which is ready to accept data. Since this is the first workbook in our new system, we will do something which is basically done only once, which is to import classifications. And we have some classifications already made, and we import them quite easily. And so now we have classifications for different codes, industry codes, concept codes, price item, which is the one we will use. And this ensures that a user cannot upload a piece of data with a code that's not in the classification. Yeah. Let's see. So now we have classifications in our system, and we only need to assign these classifications to the proper dimensions. This is also done only once for each dimension, and these dimensions can be used in many key families. For instance, year might be a dimension in every key family in the system. So these are basically all the operations we need to prepare the database to accept data. Now we need to establish the connection between this workbook and this database. This is done by creating what's called DB links, database links. And now we will use the area name we just created, which was data. This is the name of the area where the data we want to store, what it's named. And then we will make an area called dbdef or dbdef1, which will contain basically information to NADABAS about where the data is and how to find the relevant dimensions. This is maybe the part of the demonstration where it's a little bit difficult for people to grasp exactly what's going on. But this is also the part that if you do some exercises and try, then you will pretty quickly get a grasp of how this works. And so it might be a little bit strange in the beginning. So we want to get the dimensions for the key family prices. We ask NADABAS kindly to get the column names, and we see, and what we have to do is to tell NADABAS where to find all these 4 dimensions: year, quarter, month, and price item. And we see, if we go to the upload sheet, we see that if you look at year, quarter, and month, you see that if you're given all these pieces of information, then you have identified one column. So if I say 2013, first quarter, January, you will know that I'm talking about the C column. Now, if I say CPI 12, you will know that I talk about the row 18. So that will identify the row, and together they identify C18, the cell C18. Now I put in this information in, let's call it NADABAS syntax. So year, quarter, and month are all column IDs. So we will tell NADABAS call ID 1, 2, and 3. And price item is row ID. It identifies the row. We will name this this area dbdef1, which is now everything should be okay to upload. Almost. We have to set the mode, meaning whether we want to upload or download data to the database. In this case, we want to upload data, so we put in the syntax put db, and then everything should be okay to upload. We can check whether it's the case by pressing test design. Now, this suppose there was well, either I could have put in something wrong in the dbdef1, which made it impossible for NADABAS to identify a single piece of data. That would pop up as an error, I think. Or a different thing I could have done wrong is to suppose, for instance, have an erroneous code in the dimensions that would also pop up as an error. And then the administrator building the system would have to look at the error and try to find out what could be wrong and fix it. And we have had some, I've had some a little bit experiences with this, both myself and with some training sessions, and it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but it's also a matter of learning, and after a little while you probably will be fairly equipped to find what the error is and make it work. But in this case, no error was found, so it's ready to be loaded to the database. But first, we need to to register the workbook to make it part of this new system. We make this worksheet a part of the group data, and the title will be prices. You can choose basically whatever you want, but it's nice to have something which is informative. And now you saw that when I pressed button now, the Save Data button up to the left turned green, meaning I'm now allowed to write to the database. So if we press this button, NADABAS will store the data for us, and we can go to the upload sheet, and we see that all the data have turned blue, which is NADABAS's way of telling the user that this data has been stored to the database. If the data was read from the database, the color is red. So it's just to inform the user that it has been read to the database. We also press any cell and press the cell information button, and then NADABAS will tell you some information about this particular piece of data. What dimension or what values the dimensions have, where it came from, what sheet it came from, when it was updated, and by whom. So this was done in April of this year by a former colleague of mine. So this was basically the first presentation. I think I have time to do the second one. This was not. Do I have time for the second one? Or
Yes, I think you have time. Please proceed.
Yeah, I think so, because Jan used a little bit less time, so
Yeah.
so that's good. Okay, then I will try. In this next example, we have already created a system that already consists of several sheets, and we simply want to look at one particular workbook and upload some new data. So we open the database and we press the Open Workbooks button, and then you will see all the workbooks that are parts of the system. Here you can see some workbooks under the group data, amongst them prices that we just saw, and we have also some other workbooks in a different group called industries. We will open the sheet called manufacturing, which has a few sheets. One is accounts. This contains data that we want to upload to the database. You see that some of the cells are already blue, meaning that they have already been uploaded to the database, but the 2017 figures are not uploaded yet. They are black, but the idea is that they will be uploaded in this example. So we have the data that we want to upload are in the area is named out data, and the cells are calculated in a few steps from data in the worksheet data. And this sheet contains a few areas, one called VAT, one called income, and one called prices. And prices is basically data from this table or key family that we saw in the previous example. So these data, as you see, they are red, meaning that they are downloaded from the database. Since this workbook is already made, we already have this links sheet, and we will only look at it in this example. This links sheet is a little bit more complicated than the one I showed earlier, because of three main reasons. One, we want to both download data and upload data. We have multiple data areas, and we have multiple key families. And we also use a little bit some other NADABAS functionality. For instance, asking it to sum up some data for us on the fly, and some other things, but we won't dive into it here. We see that the data areas, income and prices, have been set to mode get DB, because we want to download data, and out data is set to DB, because we want to store these data. Now, if we go to the datasheet and we press we can press the load and save, which is basically a button that loads and then saves. We see that it then downloads some new data for the year 2017. And if you look at cell information, we get information about when this was stored to the database as well. Again, this was also done, actually almost a year ago. So that was basically the presentation I was planning to hold. You can see now 2017 has popped up, and it's also turned blue, meaning that it has been stored to the database. So thanks for your attention, and over to you, Samson.
Thank you very much, Magnus. And then I think thank you very much for this good presentation, who make clearly the demonstration of how NADABAS work and how can we use it. So now allow me now to give the floor, to open the floor for question. So colleague, please feel free to ask your question. Any comment from the floor? Let me see if there is any comment in the chat. Yes, Michael, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My question is, whilst we work on this building up some data sets, do we have a point person maybe for future collaboration with? Because I see, because of our time, the need and the grids of the issue are not being tackled. I think we need to continually practice. Do we have a point person we can always refer to help us along the way, especially on this on the database and things?
Okay, thank you very much. I think maybe, I don't know if Jan or last one want to answer to that question.
Maybe I can. Hello, my name is Lars Johan Söderberg, and I am from Statistics Sweden, and I'm also running or sharing a network that we call the NADABAS network, and so we are persons mainly from Statistics Sweden and Statistics Norway, together with our retired consultants from former Statistics Denmark and Statistics Sweden, Jan Redeby and Søren Netterström. And just recently, we have also Pamela Audi joined us from former KMBS. And this network, we have like monthly meetings, and we have then been planning for this webinar, this workshop. And we have also planned to have a little bit more extensive training, sometimes in December, January, about the training of trainers, so that we can, together with Stat Africa, then educate and train a set of staff that working at the National Statistical Institute, that then can go and train other national accountants how to work with the NADABAS. Statistics Sweden also have bilateral projects in Africa. For instance, in Zambia, Mr. Jan Redeby is already working with the Zambia SAMSTAT's National Institute of Statistics for deploying the NADABAS system. And we also working in Kenya with the KMBS, and maybe in some more countries, which I don't remember right now. But we have hopes then that this NADABAS network can be of help when deploying these type of systems throughout Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if Jane, you want to add something?
Yeah, maybe just to just introduce myself. I'm Jan Utskil, also the head of division for International Development Cooperation in Statistics Norway. And just to repeat that you can get to what Magnus have shown you now. This database, this data you can actually get access to by sending an email to or actually going to the NADABAS website. You can register and you can get access to the data set that Magnus has just demonstrated, and you can practice yourself. And you will also get a manual which will explain step by step everything you've seen Magnus doing. So it's a very good way for someone who wants to test the system to register and get all the material, and you can try it out on your own. Just thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Any further comment from colleague? Question? Please feel free to open your mic and proceed. Oh, Michael, do you want to come in again? I can see your hand still up.
Sorry, let me lower it, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Any further comment? Ousmane?
Oui, bonjour.
Oui, bonjour, Ousmane. Allez-y, on vous écoute.
Oui, bonjour. Bon, je dis, c'est ma première fois.
Est-ce que vous pouvez vous présenter?
Oui, Ousmane Ba, INS Guinée.
OK.
OK, je dis, c'est ma première fois de voir NADA. Bon, je voudrais savoir comment on l'installe dans Excel. Et maintenant, pour les débutants, qu'est-ce qui est prévu pour les débutants? Est-ce que après l'atelier, il y a un manuel qui est prévu pour les nouveaux? Merci beaucoup.
Okay, merci beaucoup, Ousmane. I can see a hand from George Consao. Please go ahead.
Sim, boa tarde. Conceição, Instituto Nacional de Estatística de Angola. Eu tenho duas questões para fazer. A primeira, gostaria de saber como é que nós podemos baixar o NADABAS. A segunda questão é que, ao longo da apresentação, verifiquei que, de facto, o NADABAS é possível trabalhar com base no Excel, mas também vi que há ali uma ligação, é possível ter uma ligação de ligne com o acesso. Do que eu sei do acesso, é uma ferramenta também mais ou menos como o Excel, mas é preciso primeiro preparar os ficheiros para que eles possam ir buscar o link na informação sistema. Pronto. As pessoas que não dominam o NADABAS.
I think we are facing a challenge to hear Angola. I think maybe he faced a challenge with connection. Angola, Georgia, please, can you come in again? Because we didn't get very well your question. Angola. I don't know. Jan, did you hear a question from Angola? I didn't hear. I don't know if other colleague can. Okay, I think while we are waiting for Angola to come in again, I will give the floor to Kalis. Kalis, please go ahead. Calice.
Samson.
Oui, bonsoir, allez-y.
Oui. Allô? Allô?
Oui, allez-y, on vous entend.
Ok, merci, madame. On m'appelle Calice Maoudé de l'Institut national de la statistique du Bénin. Je suis au service des comptes nationaux. Bon, c'est la première fois que je vois NADABAS. Je le vois comme un outil intéressant pour la compilation des comptes nationaux. Bon, avec le partage et les liens des sites, bon, nous avons mis une méthode pour pouvoir mieux découvrir l'outil. Je n'ai pas de questions particulières. C'est juste pour dire que l'outil est intéressant et que l'intégration à capital. Merci.
Calice, on ne vous entend pas très bien. Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter la question? On ne vous a pas bien entendu. Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter la question, Calice? Ok, I think.
Oui, je disais que je n'ai pas de questions particulières, mais je trouve l'outil intéressant avec les sites et les partages qui se font, qu'on va s'y intéresser dans son apprentissage.
Ok.
Merci.
Merci. Any further question or comment before I give the floor to Magnus?
Allô?
Oui, allez-y, monsieur Achille.
Oui, Samson, merci. Je me présente, moi c'est Defo Achille de l'INS du Cameroun. Comme pour la plupart des participants francophones, c'est la première fois que je découvre aussi l'outil et je le trouve également intéressant. Et comme vous pouvez le savoir, la plupart d'entre nous, en tout cas le Cameroun en particulier, on utilise l'outil ERTS. Et bon, quand on a un tel outil, on essaie un peu de voir les similarités entre les deux outils. Bon, j'ai une question, c'est de savoir dans l'architecture de NADABAS, si la façon de faire, en fait, en fonction des révisions des comptes nationaux, c'est-à-dire que quand on fait par exemple les comptes trimestriels ou bien les comptes annuels, est-ce que la façon de faire est différente ou bien les deux comptes peuvent cohabiter dans une même base? Parce que j'ai vu que le système pouvait enregistrer plusieurs années, par exemple. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Achille. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions, commentaires des collègues? Yeah, I can see Clarence. Clarence, please go ahead.
Yes, I just like to know if the
Please, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, anyway, I'm Clarence from Liberia.
Okay.
Yes, so I just like to know if there are specific challenges or things to consider during the installation of NADABAS.
Okay, thank you very much, Clarence. Any further question, comment? None? Okay, I think I will give a floor to Magnus, and then maybe if Jan, you want to come in also specially with question from Achille from Cameroon, you can come and support. While he was here that they can use another bar for the quarterly national account and then annual national account at the same time. I don't know if Sora is connected also, he can come also. Allow me to start with Magnus and then later you can come in.
Okay, I will come in after Magnus.
Okay, Magnus, please go ahead.
The first question was about how to install or where to get NADABAS and these exercises, I think. And you can get NADABAS by going online to the NADABAS website and register, and you will be sent the newest version of NADABAS. And I didn't show it as an exercise here, but it's basically pressing a button and the ribbon is installed. So it's not, it's no more difficult than that. The other question that I heard was whether you can compile annual and quarterly national accounts in the same database. I think maybe Jan will touch or can say more about this than me, but basically there's no real limits to what you can store together in the same database, but maybe I rather let Jan answer.
Okay, Jan, please go ahead.
Okay, shall I do that? Can I share my screen and just show the example?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Share screen, and then I look at, let me see now, I look at this one. Share. Can you see an Excel?
We can see your screen.
You can see the Excel sheet.
Yes, yes.
And this is also included in the tutorial, how to combine, how to include quarterly estimates. Of course, this is a very simple example, but quite often you do annual estimates based on a bit more detail than the comprehensive data. Then you use indicators for your quarterly estimates. And those quarterly estimates then have to be benchmarked to the annual estimates. So can you see the sheet? This Excel file is called, I think, it's a workbook for quarterly estimates. And there you can download the annual estimates. You can see the red numbers here. This one comes from your annual sheet. If you, let me see now, again, stop share. For example, if you click on, you can see where it comes from. Let me see. This comes from the annual workbook. Then you download your quarterly data, tax data, and you have a PPI for calculating the constant prices. Then on this sheet, results, you have the indicators for your gross value added at current and constant prices. And then you benchmark them to the annual estimates. And what we use now quite often, there is a tool developed by the IMF that is called Excel PBM. And that one, of course, it is not part of NADABAS, but it can easily be used together with NADABAS as with any other Excel workbook. So that's how it goes. Through the database, you can sort of download the annual estimates, the annual values. It's done on this sheet annual. You can and you download also quarterly source data, like in this example, it's VAT, sales, and the PPI for deflation. And then here you make your calculations, current prices, you sort of move it with the movement of VAT. Yeah? And then constant prices, you deflate it, and here you benchmark it. And there you are. So that's, and again, when you install it as a blank sheet, so to say. It doesn't know anything about national accounts, but you can very easily include annual and quarterly estimates. Let me also answer another question. I saw on the chat here, one person, Mr. Abdul Salam Masoud, wanted to know if there is a help function in NADABAS. There isn't really, but there is one thing that can help you. How do I get rid of this thing? Okay, yeah. There is one thing that you can help you. When you set up the system, just show the templates. When you set up the system, you design your templates. You design your links to the database is done here. And that's the tricky part. That's the elaborate part of the whole system. And that's where you will spend quite a lot of time in setting up the system. So then let's say here, the first one, the results. Let me see, DBDF1, it tells that, let me see. These are what you want to download to the database, that to upload to the database. These are the quarterly estimates. Now the transaction code for quarterly estimates is B1. Let's say that you had made an error here and written B9 or whatever. And then we test design. So then you get an error. And here, there is a number on the error. So in that part, there is a help facility, but it's not a help button. You can sort of include documents in NADABAS. So we have, you can see DE114 here. That's the number of the code. For transaction not found in transactions. So if you want further information, you can open a document where error messages are described. So you can look up that D114. So there is some help facility, but there is no help button. And once again, I mean, you can include documents. You can make the manual, for example, you can make it easily accessible from NADABAS. Okay, so I think I hope that thing on the annual and quarterly, I hope that illuminated a little bit on your question.
Okay.
So I will stop sharing now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think maybe we are a bit late now. So let's move to the next presentation now on a NADABAS technical issue, technical introduction to NADABAS, and then installation and use of NADABAS in different scenarios. I think this presentation will give us more light again on how to install NADABAS, and then also how to use, in addition to the presentation from Magnus. So that presentation will be made by IT expert Soren, who's the consultant, but previously was working for Statistics Denmark. So Soren, you are most welcome. Yeah. Soren, are you connected? If you are talking, please.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Can we unmute?
You mean now?
Can you, if your connection good, maybe you can open your camera so people can see you.
Yes, I start the video as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, here we are. Yes, my name is Leonard from, and as it was said, I used to work for Statistics Denmark since 1967, doing IT systems, and then I was involved from the beginning in the development of NADABAS. And what I'm going to show you now is basically some different scenarios in which NADABAS can be installed. So I share my screen. Yes, and the first thing I actually want to show you is how to install NADABAS. And what I've done is I opened the workbook you receive, in this case, NADABAS version 5.0.6.0.13, and I simply press the button. Sorry, I don't know why I get this book. It takes a few moments. And it's installed, and all I have to do now is to restart NADABAS, and NADABAS is installed. I'm not going to do that. So it was just to show that installing NADABAS is really one of the easiest tasks you have. But we're going to talk a bit about the installation of NADABAS in general. And just briefly again, you have seen most of it, but NADABAS is a system to organize a large set of workbooks, and it can be operated by many users. I think it's important to realize that national account is always a teamwork. And you have seen this picture and you have seen this picture as well. The only thing I added to this picture is, as Jens said, we can have documents as well. And documents can actually be linked, either be a general document like the NADABAS manual itself, or it can be linked to a group of workbooks. You saw that each workbook, that they can be grouped into different groups, source data, etc., or it can be actually linked to a specific document. So if you want to have comments on a specific document, then I think you simply add a Word document or another Excel workbook for that matter, and call it a document where you have the necessary descriptions you might need. The main point here is still that with NADABAS, all workbooks and all documents is seen as a single system and not as a set of separate workbooks. And everything can be accessed from within NADABAS, and you saw that demonstrated. And then that way you get an overview of the complete system. Then I recommend that when you build up the system, you install all part of the system in a single folder. We'll come back to that. But the most important part here is don't have more than one copy of each file. And make it easy to take and back up. And we'll come back to that later. And then, as it has also been mentioned, it's a teamwork, but you can assign roles. You can say this person is responsible for this set of workbooks, another person is responsible for another set of workbooks, if you like to do it that way. And then you have the administrators, they can access everything everywhere. So what you typically do is you set up a single folder, and then you have a number of, and in that folder you have the actual database, and then you have probably a number of subfolders where you put your different worksheets. It's not needed to do it that way, but it seems nice to have some overview. And then we have a specific folder to hold all the documents. The database is the central point. The whole reason for having NADABAS is that we have a single database. And one thing is that the database has the information about which workbooks are available, which documents are available, and we can use that then to locate and open the workbooks and the documents. And then once you have opened the workbook, and this is important, there is actually, while you work with the workbook, there's no interaction with the database. There's only an interaction with the database if you ask to load data or to save data. Then the connection to the database becomes active during that process. Then there is also when you design the system, etc. But in the day-to-day use, these are the only two cases where the database becomes active, apart from when you try to locate and open workbooks. So based on this, we can see that there are actually 4 different ways you can install NADABAS. And I'll go through all 4 cases. In some cases, there is no LAN. And then I propose that you might try to set up a small wireless LAN. If you already have a file server, then everything is okay, you can use that. And you can, if you have SQL Server, you can even use that. Come back to that. The problem is if we don't have a LAN, or if the LAN is not working properly, then you could install NADABAS on a single computer, which I will call the base computer. When somebody needs to examine or revise a certain workbook, it should be opened on the base computer, and if needed, you may load new data from the database. Save. When you do that, the workbook is actually automatically saved as well. Now take a copy, for instance, on a USB, bring it to your own PC, process it there. As we just saw, we don't need to have access to the database while we are actually manipulating the worksheet. When that is done, copy it back to the base computer. Open with NADABAS and save any data as needed. It requires discipline, and it requires that once you have done, you don't keep your copy. The only version of a workbook should be the one, valid one should be the one on the base computer. And I think it's important to keep that discipline if you do it this way. But I think it's possible to work this way if you are a small team. And as I say, I think it's a good idea to keep some kind of a log to see which workbook are presently being processed outside the system. And we might even reintroduce, if we are asked to, that you can actually from NADABAS export a workbook so that the NADABAS database will know that this workbook is presently being exported outside the system, worked on outside the system. And once you then bring it back, you will remove that mark. So, and if there's a request for it, I think we will simply reintroduce that option, but it's not in the present system. But it's not something that will take much time to do. Another option, and an alternative to this, is that if you don't have a LAN or the LAN doesn't work, then I wondered if it would be possible to actually create a small LAN. Personally, I have one back home. I have a NAS drive, and I have a switch or router. I have a router, and then the NAS drive actually works in the way that it's accessible from each computer that is connected to the switch. And you will normally install it just next to the switch and connect it by a cable. And then the PCs will use a wireless connection. But during that wireless connection, they will have access to the NAS drive where all of the NADABAS system should be installed, or all the files should be on the NAS drive, database and all the Excel sheets. And I think that such a system may be implemented, and I put up a price of $600 US. I think it probably much less, but just to be on the safe side. And it's a one-time investment. And it's actually not, it's not nuclear science to set up such a system. And once it's set up, it does not require any kind of monitoring by the central IT. You might need some help to get it up and working the first time, but once it's done, it is just running. And that, in general, has been part of the philosophy of NADABAS, that you should not be dependent on central IT. At least what I have seen around in Africa is not that central IT is very well staffed. They are often have much too much to look at. So getting support from them can be rather difficult. So we have tried to say, this is going to work without the need of support from central IT. Once it's set up, it should just work. So, more on this one. I mean, we are not talking about images or video files or anything. So a 1 terabyte drive, which is one of the smallest you can get, will actually provide you with more than plenty of space. I haven't seen, you can even have backups and whatever. And again, the interaction with the database is not every time you press a button. It is when you load data, when you save data. So a 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth will do. You don't need to have something that is state of the art to do this. The only thing that is, of course, if you use a wireless connection, there is a limit on the distance. But I guess that normally people are located in the same area of the building, at least, if they are not in the same office. So it should not be a practical problem. So you install the NADABAS system on the drive, and then you also need to actually install the NADABAS add-in on each computer. And then you assign a drive letter to the NAS drive, and then you can connect to the database. And the benefit of this is, of course, that we avoid duplicate files, and we can really get all the benefits of NADABAS, including control of who has access to what, etc. So it is, I think it's a much better solution than having just a set of unconnected PCs. But okay, there is a price, but I think it's a rather small price. And that has been another part from the beginning of the of designing NADABAS, that it should not, there should not be any extra cost. You don't have to go and buy some expensive hardware or a lot of support to run the system. But this is one option. If there is a working line, then use it, of course. I mean, then you create a folder on the file server where you have all of the NADABAS system, you assign a drive letter, and install the NADABAS add-in. And then, similar to what we saw above, I mean, all the files, all the spreadsheets, workbooks are placed on the file server. NADABAS is, of course, installed on each computer. Then there was actually this question, do you have one database or several databases? And it's more a matter of design. NADABAS supports that you actually have multiple databases. And then when you open NADABAS, you will actually get a question, which database to open. So you can have, if you like it that way, you can have one system taking care of yearly accounts and another system taking care of quarterly accounts. You can have a search system that is revision in progress or whatever you might call it. So you can actually have a set of independent systems, but then they are independent. You cannot talk from one system to the other. Okay. We have also made it possible to use SQL Server. And from the experience we have, I will say it's only recommended in the case that you actually already use SQL Server, that you have an IT department that has people who knows how to operate SQL Server, because it's not an easy task to maintain an SQL Server system. It requires some training, some special skills. So unless you already have SQL Server, don't even think about it. And other SQL-based databases, Oracle, MySQL, etc., is not supported. But the way the system is constructed, it would be possible to do so if there is a request. But so far, there has not been any request, so there's not been any need to develop that. Yes. Yeah, I think I just pass on. The next thing I like to talk about here is actually that I think it's important that you are aware of the need to have backups, and there's a difference between what I call a backup and a frozen version. Backups are created to avoid loss of data in the case that we have a malfunction of the hardware or a human error. And I think that any system should be backed up at regular interval. Whether that is weekly or monthly or daily, depends on how much you are actually willing to lose in the case of a malfunction. So But backups are important, and if you have all your data, as I suggest, in a single folder, it's simply taking a copy of everything that in that folder and put it on a reasonable media. One thing that's important here is that there is no history. That is, you cannot say to NADABAS, I want to look at the database as it looked 2 months ago or 3 months ago. It's always the latest revision of any number that is in the database and in the workbooks. But sometimes you may want to be able to go back and see what did the content of the system was at a certain point of view. And that is where frozen versions are used. So backup, I say, if it's stored on a single computer or on a NAS drive, then I think it's National Account Division itself that has the responsibility of taking backups. If it's a centralized server, then it should be the responsibility of the IT people to take regular backups of the server, but make sure they do. And I think that the responsibility of National Account is at least to make sure that backups are taken. And if not, I mean, then back to do it on your own. The important thing is backups should be taken, and you should make sure that they are taken and that they are kept in a decent way. They are only used for disaster recovery. And I like to say that keep 2 or 3 backups all the time, because you may get in the situation where you need a backup and then the last one you had malfunctions as well. And it's nice to have another one. But 2 or 3 should do it. Save them, store them in a safe place, and at least not next to the computer, the NAS server. I mean, in case of a fire or something like that, it's not very useful if the backups are also damaged by the fire. So at least don't save them in the same location, better save them in another building. And yeah, I say do it at least once a week. I think it won't make sense, but it's a recommendation. Frozen version is another story, because that is a way to preserve history. I want to be able to go back to an older version of the system and examine it. And that is actually where the fact that NADABAS supports multiple databases can come into place. Because I can take my previous version, store it in another folder, maybe renaming the database, I don't even need to do that. Connect to that database, give it a name that tells you that this is the frozen version from this or that point of time. And then you can go in and take a look at everything that's in the frozen version without compromising your current version. And my recommendation would be that when you have, as far as I understand, national accounts are often produced in revisions. You go through a certain set of processes, and at the end of those processes, you have a new revision or new year or whatever it is of the national account. At that point of time, I think it makes sense to create a frozen version and say, this is the data on which that is actually the base for the latest dissemination. Yeah, and that is, of course, the National Account Division themselves that has the responsibility for this. And as I say, make sure they are properly identified, and they are probably kept for a much longer period of time than the backup. Yeah, I think I'll skip the last 2 points. They are not very important right now. So just to say, any support to the system, for the time being, I'm the one responsible for all kind of technical support to the system. This is my email address, and I'll try to respond to any request for technical support within a day or two. I might be on holiday, I might be away, but I try to read my mail every day at least and give the best a short reply. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sora. Maybe you can leave an email, the slide that we can, where there is your email address, so people can. Okay. So thank you very much, Soran, for this presentation on NADABAS technical issue. I think it's very technical issue. So allow me now to open the floor for discussion and comment. So colleague, feel free if you have any comment. Yes. I can see Kaute. Kaute, please, you have the floor. Madame Kaute, votre micro est fermé. On ne vous entend pas, votre micro est fermé. Votre micro est fermé, ouvrez le micro.
Oui. Pardon.
Allez-y maintenant.
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez très bien?
Maintenant, on vous entend très bien, allez-y.
Oui, je suis cadre Chibeni de l'Institut national de la statistique de Tunis. Je suis cadre dans le département comptabilité nationale. NADABAS, est-ce qu'elle prend en considération des matrices de production et matrices de consommation intermédiaire et les tableaux d'entrée et sortie? Est-ce qu'il y a des tableaux de synthèse dans NADABAS? Ou est-ce que le nombre limité des gens qui peuvent travailler en ligne en même temps?
OK. Merci beaucoup pour cette question.
De rien.
OK, je pense que les collègues vont répondre à ça. Maintenant, je donne la parole à M. Achille.
Merci, Samson. Je voulais déjà remercier le présentateur pour la qualité de la présentation. On est toujours émerveillé quand on découvre cet outil, la simplicité qu'il y a autour. Et bon, je voudrais revenir sur une question. Comme je dis tout à l'heure, quand on utilise un autre outil, quand on voit un nouvel outil, on veut toujours un peu faire des comparaisons. Dans ma question, ce que j'ai compris, c'est que on dit que NADABAS ne connaît pas les comptes nationaux. Et on peut dire que c'est une principale différence avec RTS, puisque dans RTS, le système intègre déjà les éléments de la démarche d'élaboration des comptes nationaux. Donc, la question dans ce sens serait par exemple de savoir si, tel que NADABAS est conçu, est-ce qu'on peut faire autre chose que les comptes nationaux à l'intérieur? Est-ce qu'on peut par exemple faire la comptabilité privée? Donc, ça, c'est une question. Et bon, l'autre question, c'est en lien avec les développements de Excel, parce qu'on voit bien que NADABAS, c'est une sorte d'interfaçage entre Excel et une base de données, en l'occurrence Access ici. Donc, la question, c'est de savoir, ça fait quand même plusieurs dizaines d'années que le système est développé. La question, c'est en termes d'évolution. Comment est-ce que les développements se positionnent par rapport aux évolutions dans Excel, par exemple? Parce qu'on sait qu'avec Excel, avec les nouvelles versions d'Excel, on a par exemple le modèle de données qui a été intégré dans Excel. Il y a les outils comme Power Query, Power Pivot. Comment est-ce que NADABAS se positionne par rapport à ce développement de Microsoft?
Merci beaucoup, Achille. Any other comment? Please feel free to come in. I cannot see. Si vous avez des questions, des suggestions par rapport à la présentation de Soren? Non? Oui, Monsieur Martinet, allez-y.
Oui, merci aux différents, aux présentateurs. Hein. Bon, moi, je vais juste, bon, il se peut que j'ai été un peu distrait pendant les présentations, mais d'abord, pour pouvoir disposer, enfin, comment l'avoir, puisque j'ai pu comprendre que c'est gratuit, comment l'avoir et, bon, parce qu'un temps, j'étais allé rapidement sur le site NADABAS, mais bon, je sais pas, j'ai pas pu quand même avoir le logiciel déjà pour pour déjà voir comment ça fonctionne. Donc déjà nous donner quelques précisions sur comment disposer du logiciel et voilà.
Merci beaucoup, M. Martinet. Any comments, suggestions? Please feel free to raise your hand. And you can open your mic and then proceed. Oui, je vois Calice encore. Calice, allez-y.
Allô?
Oui, allez-y, on vous entend.
Bon, quand j'étais allé sur le site, j'ai fait l'inscription. Pour avoir les papiers, faire l'inscription, mais on n'a aucun message de retour. On n'a pas de message dans les mails. Je ne sais pas si c'est comme ça fonctionne. Ça prend du temps.
OK.
Donc, on envoie le formulaire, il n'y a aucun message qu'on reçoit.
OK, je pense que... Donc, ça, c'est une question concernant le site web. OK, any other comment from colleagues? Suggestion on the presentation of Soren? I cannot see any hand anymore. Okay, please, Soren, I think now over to you. There are some questions to you, and maybe some also, there are some people are facing a challenge to the website of NADABAS. Maybe I'm sure last one will come and then try to address those questions. So let's start with Soren. Soren, please, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got the address of the website. It's NADABAS.net, so it's rather easy. And there you can get actually a copy of the software. And it is right. It's just an Excel add-in, and so far we have been able to make sure that it works with any new version of Excel. It can actually work both with 32-bit Excel and 64-bit Excel, and so far we have managed to do that, and I don't believe that Microsoft is going to completely skip the support for Visual Basic for application. I think simply they will run into too many dissatisfied customers because NADABAS is not the only system that is based on Visual Basic for application. But it's so far it has been possible, and I hope it will still be possible, to make sure that NADABAS will work with the latest version of Excel, but also, of course, be able to run with previous versions from, as we have it now, from 2013 and upwards. It may at some point be necessary to skip support for very old versions, but it has not been the case yet. We are within the NADABAS network looking into the possibility of finding new persons to support and further develop NADABAS, but for the time being, I'm still the one responsible for that. I hope that answers one of the questions. Yes, the database itself, I mean, Microsoft Access, you can of course have, and it might be useful to have the Access application. Normally you get all the Microsoft products in one package, and as part of that you will have Microsoft Access. But you don't actually need Microsoft Access to create a Microsoft Access database. And all the manipulation of the database, including creation of tables, etc., are done from within NADABAS. So you can have Microsoft Access if you like to go behind the scene and see what's actually there. But I strongly recommend that you don't manipulate the database directly from Microsoft Access, because you can easily then make problems for NADABAS. So actually, yeah. So that is the way it works. So you can say that the support for the Access database is part of Excel. Excel knows everything that's worth knowing about an Access database, and it can be manipulated directly from Excel, or rather from Visual Basic for application. So that is the way that works. I hope this answers the questions. Yeah, then one more thing. I mean, just once again, making it very clear. NADABAS does not know anything about national accounts. The only thing NADABAS can do is helping in organizing a set of spreadsheets in a way that they become a single coherent system, that all data is either stored or loaded from a database. And actually I see the database as a real central point in a NADABAS solution, because that is where all the important data resides. Then you use Excel sheets to look at the data, to manipulate the data, and even it was talked about that you have a registered workbook, and that's right. You can only save data from registered workbooks normally, but you can actually easily create, if we want to look at some data from a different perspective, it's rather easy to create a new workbook that looks into the database, loads those data you need to examine further. And one of the nice things about the way it's done is that you can easily say, I want to have, I don't want to have years on the top, I want to have years as the row, and then I want to have some other indicators on the top. You can you can slice and dice your data in many different ways. So examining the data that is in the database can actually be rather simple using NADABAS as well. But again, everything that has to be with national account, that goes into the actual design of the different spreadsheets. And then it's dependent on the available data you have, the methodology you have chosen, and so forth and so on. But it's not part of NADABAS. And there is no intention that it should be. Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much, Soren. So last one, if you are there, can you share maybe your screen?
Yes, I will.
And see if we can on the website of NADABAS where they can download first of all the software and then also the material.
Exactly. Thank you, Samson. I will briefly show you how to use this NADABAS website. So I will share my screen.
Please share your screen. Yeah.
Yes, I will. Wow. Let me see here. No. Share. Tell me, Samson, when it's visible.
Yeah, we can see Google. We can see Google.
Okay, good.
But
thank you.
It's not not in English.
It's very simple. So it's in Swedish.
Okay.
So the only thing we have to do is to type in nadabas.net like so. Press enter, and then here it is. And I encourage everyone that have interest in NADABAS to go here, because it's a wealth of information. And also, as we heard by someone asking a question, how you can get the actual software then. So we have it here. I have to move this. So contact and registration here. So if you go here and you fill in a form, like here, and then when you have filled in this form, then someone at the NADABAS network will get back to you and send you a link where you can download or email this. What's this? Email this application or this Excel add-on, which is really, but here you can also find a lot of information. So we have the home here, we have some general stuff about what is the advantages of NADABAS, we have a background, how it was created, and so on. And as Søren has mentioned, he's then the person to ask for any support about the software. But the NADABAS network will then of course try to find replacement people then for Søren, and that can continue giving support on this important application. We have an overview here as well. And we have documents and downloads, where we have some software and training tutorials. And here you can also get the registration. And here we have about how to use NADABAS. Then we have a few videos here also on YouTube where you can follow. And I think also, Samson, isn't it, that this session has been recorded live on YouTube. And so I think that we can then maybe put this session onto this NADABAS network, a link to it at least. Yeah.
I think there was a question from a gentleman from Benin. He said he put he register, but so far he didn't receive any feedback.
Okay.
On contact and registration. So I don't know in that case what they are supposed to do.
But then we have to go back to our registration form here and see, and then of course,
but
send this Excel macro to him then, so he can start.
Is it possible to send an email directly to Sora to ask about this, or they need to pass through the registration form?
We have said that it's better so we have a little bit of knowledge of who is using and who has downloaded, because if we have an open download page here in our website, then we don't know exactly who is downloading. But we have to discuss this in our network if we can change this thing.
Okay. So in case they fill the form and they didn't receive any feedback, they can send an email to Soren.
No, not to Søren. It's me, more Jan Redeby, I think.
Yeah, but what is the detail?
Huh?
Your email address is not in the website.
You don't need it. It should be here because then it's automatically sent to Jan Redeby. So he should have been prompted about this person. But we will discuss this after this meeting, so we can then.
Okay. So when they fill the form, normally they should receive the add-in.
Yeah, but we have to look into this, because now after this seminar or this workshop here, I think we have had more than 130 listeners here and participants. So I think we maybe can put this file on our website in a way so it's easy to download it. But we have to discuss it internally at first.
Okay. Okay.
Can I, let me see, can I also come in?
Jan, there was also some question we chat. Jan, so when we reply, just reply also to some question we chat from Thomas. Jan, go ahead.
Yeah, what I want to say, as far as I can see, I mean, the latest request came in yesterday, and that one we haven't responded to as yet. But as Lars said now, I think we should simplify that procedure. When you register, you should. So let's look into it, and we will tell you maybe tomorrow what how that process can be simplified. Because what you get when you register so far, it's not only the Excel add-in, it's also the tutorial which goes with it. So I think the process there, the procedure can be a little bit simplified.
Jan, can we do like this, that for all the participants from this workshop, they can have the manual and the Excel macro? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think so, but not sent via emails, of course. That should be by clicking a link, so then they get it.
Yeah, because we have all the email addresses.
Yes.
So will that work, that we can then...
Yeah, we have an email address of all the participants.
Exactly. So we can send the manual and we can send the Excel macro to each and every one then. I think that will be a good solution.
Okay.
Because then we know also who have received it in a way, because we have the email addresses.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any further comment, question? So I think, Abes, do you want to say something? Okay, great. I think we come now to the end of the section today. So we'll continue tomorrow at the same time again, at 2 o'clock Addis Ababa time. So tomorrow we'll now hear about country experience from 4 countries. we hear from Kenya. I don't know if anybody from Kenya is connected today. Please, can you just introduce yourself? Anybody from Kenya is connected? Kenya. Okay, I hope they will be there tomorrow. So we'll hear a presentation from Kenya. After Kenya, we hear also presentation from Lesotho. Lesotho, I can see Lerato was connected. Lerato, I don't know if you are still there. Okay, but for sure, she will be present also tomorrow. Namibia, we hear also presentation from Namibia. Anybody from Namibia is connected?
I'm here connected, Thomas.
Yeah,
Kanyanga.
Thomas. Yeah,
Yes.
great. So tomorrow you will make a presentation. And then also we'll hear also presentation from Mozambique. I don't know if anybody from Mozambique is connected.
See? Yes.
Okay, so Mozambique, feel free tomorrow to make your presentation in Portuguese, as we have a translator in. So I will receive already your presentation in English, but if you want, you can present also. You can present straight. You can have also your slide in Portuguese. There is no problem for that. Yeah, Mozambique. Simao, are you the one who's going to present? Simao. Simao, are you hearing me?
Não exatamente é o Sr. Mabai, mas será uma equipe, eu também estarei.
Please, can you repeat, please?
Sim?
Okay, thank you very much, Simao. Okay, so tomorrow we'll have a country presentation, and then also if you have if you have any question tomorrow about question or comment of today's session, we can fill it. But Jan, I don't know if you hear a question from Tunisia. It looks like we didn't respond to a question from Tunisia. Jan. Jan, ready be?
Maybe he left. I don't know. I cannot see him.
But his mic is.
But by the way, can I just ask one thing before Samson? Can I ask everyone from the NADABAS network to stay 5 minutes after this meeting in this Zoom link then?
It's better to send maybe another link, because we have a lot of participants. To wait for all of them to get disconnected can take you more than 20 minutes.
Okay, but
yeah.
we can. I think it's no problem. They can listen in a little bit if they're still there.
Okay, if you want like it, yeah. So I think Jan, are you there now?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm saying, did you hear a question from Tunisia? Jan, I think.
Yes, what was the question?
Maybe let me ask Tunisia again to come again, if you are there now. Madame Kauter, est-ce que vous pouvez poser encore votre question? Peut-être qu'il y a un problème d'interprétation et Yann n'avait pas entendu votre question.
Oui, je peux répéter ma question.
Allez-y.
NADABAS, est-ce qu'elle prend en considération des matrices et les séquences de comptes de comptabilité nationale?
Okay, je pense que c'est clair maintenant. Yann, did you hear that?
Did you ask about the sequence of accounts in national accounts?
Yes, exactly. He said if NADABAS can assist to do that.
Yes, it can. But again, it's a matter of thinking up the design in the Excel format with the sequence of accounts. And then you have So it's a matter of setting up the sequence of accounts and then to design the database table that can I'm sorry, the interpretation doesn't work properly now because I'm hearing the French when I'm speaking. So
no, maybe put on off when we are speaking. Jan.
Yeah, I have English here as my language.
But take it off.
Take it off, and then you can speak.
So I switch it off.
Yeah. Now put it off, and then you can speak. I think now we can listen to you properly.
Okay. So let me answer again. The question was about the sequence of accounts.
If NADABAS can assist to do that.
Yes. Yes and no. I mean, NADABAS, as we have said, it doesn't know anything about national accounts. You have to have the knowledge of national accounts. You have to conceive it, how to set it up in Excel. And then it's a matter of creating the database so that it can incorporate those accounts. I mean, it's a matter of putting up the debit and credit to put codes on the various transactions that you have in your accounts. We have done that but normally NADABAS so far it has only been a matter of compiling the GDP by production and expenditure approaches and to design a supply and use table. So yes and no, it can, but there is nothing predefined in NADABAS. You have to think it up in Excel, and then we have to create the database table that can take that into account. I think we did that in Mozambique when we started.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jan, for that answer. And then I'm sure that tomorrow when we have a country presentation for those 4 countries, it can give more light also on how they set up the system, especially those who has quite good experience like Mozambique and Lesotho. They can tell us clearly how they manage to set up a system, because I'm sure that they are producing all those sequential accounts that Tunisia is requesting for. So thank you very much, colleague, to attend to this session. I don't know if Lash or Jane want to add something before we close for today. Please feel free to come in. Lash.
Yes, I think Janne was on her way, but anyway, I can start then. Thank you very much, all participants, and of course the presenters and South Africa and Samson for hosting this important event. And I think that it has been very interesting, good presentations and good questions as well. And it will be even more interesting tomorrow when we will learn from countries that are already using NADABAS. So I wish you nice afternoon, and we see you all tomorrow. And please, again, to the NADABAS network, please stay 5 minutes after this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jan, over to you.
So just the same, thank you very much to everyone. I think it's been very useful, and special thank you to Samson for organizing this. And I see you all tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to hear from the other country experiences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, colleague. See you again tomorrow at 2 p.m. in afternoon, Addis Ababa time. So we'll hear about the country experience, Kenya, Lesotho, Namibia,
Rwanda.
And we'll receive a comment, question, answer. So if you have any question regarding today's session, feel free again to ask tomorrow. So in that note now, please have a good afternoon or good evening, and see you tomorrow. Bye.
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 Samson, are you shutting down the live feed on YouTube?
Okay, I will shut it down here.
So we can have our discussions not on YouTube.